What's up, everybody? I am Baptiste. This is the show for disrupting the drift, disrupting the status quo, disrupting the mediocrity that people live in until they don't. This is a place, a space where we can tell the truth and the truth can be told. And as we know, you know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. If you get some value, some kind of new insight that is of value to you, please share the show. Leave comments. We invite you to also check out the YouTube channel. We'll be posting some of these podcasts at Baptiste. You can leave questions. We love getting your questions. You leave your questions in the comments on the YouTube channel, or you could send them to disruptingthedrift@baronbaptiste.com. David, how's it going, friend?
Well, the world's in entire state of chaos, but other than that, I'm good.
You're good.
Yes.
Yeah, the world is kind of bonkers, right now.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, and a lot of people are either feeling the truth of that in different ways, whether it's developing symptoms that come from uncertainty, from fear of the unknown. There's so much fear, a frequency of fear, I'll say. People are feeling it. It's manifesting in different ways in their bodies, minds, beings. And then you have the other people who aren't paying attention.
They're swept up in the river of change that's going on. I think most people instinctively resist change, believe it or not, because we establish ourselves through habits. I don't like getting a new phone because I don't like to have to learn how to use that new phone. It's not that complicated. It's just my resistance level is very high to getting a new phone. So I keep my phones until they're falling apart. But that's just human nature.
I like new, but change can be different than new. I think by default, most human beings live in a resistance to change. And so one way of dealing with that is not deal with it. Put your blinders on. Everything's fine. Everything's going to work out. And it will. And though there's something about being present to what's happening in life. It's changing rapidly. Most people, I think if they're aware at all, they've changed. I mean, just since the pandemic. And I think that's why I so appreciate our conversations here.
As do I.
A space where we can be truthful. And it's actually who I am, a lover of truth. My core, at the ground of my being, it's who I am. It's not a commitment. It may not be completely all of who I am, but it's a very strong aspect of who I am. So that's where here, these kind of conversations that you and I have, David, they allow me to be the truer version of who I am and get to express that and share that. So thank you for getting to do this with you and then all of you listening. So we have a question here. How much pain do I need to be able to tolerate? And does success require pain? I own my own small business. I work a lot and about 50 people work for me. I'm not speaking of physical pain, but rather emotional pain. There's the front and the back of the hand on this. There's two ways to look at this. Pain is a requirement for redemption, for real growth as a human being, like real development in oneself. There's an element of pain. Jesus on the cross comes to mind. There was a kind of taking on of pain of humanity, then demonstrating the forgiveness. There's something about pain as a part of life. But then there's the other side of it that comes out of a toxic mentality. If it's not painful and hard, it isn't any good. There's good pain, there's bad pain, or there's just pain and it's what you do with it. What do you say?
So I would say there's a need for deep self-examination. And so many people are programmed to have beliefs that are not authentic. They're not original. I mean, most of everything that we have within us is not original. Everything is programmed into us. We absorb from our environment. We absorb the news. We absorb social media. We absorb everything. But the question is, how much of that is actually you? And then the other deeper question is, how much of that is not you is driving you? Because I'd say when you have that kind of pain, the core of it has to be uncovered. And I would say the potential here is that whatever you're doing in your small business, maybe that isn't really what your true purpose is in life. And you are in conflict more than anything else, more than with all the struggles you have with all the people that work for you and all the rest of it, more than all of your concerns and your sense of responsibility and your false conscience about everything, trying to make sure everybody's happy. This may not be your thing. And that's what you may have to look at. This may not be what you're called into this world to do. And you could be acting out of a certain degree of programming, believing that you're doing the right thing. And really, it's not the the right thing for you. And I've always said to people, if they ask me, David, what's the meaning of life? I say, it's too big. What's the meaning of your life? That's manageable. If you find the meaning of your life, you will find joy. But if you do not find the true meaning of your life, you're setting yourself up for disease, for substance abuse, all kinds of things that come from not being in the right place for the right reason. And because when you're in the right place for the right reason, there is pain that you can go through, but that pain is different. I love what you told me, Baron, about the egg, the shell. What's that statement again?
Yeah, the poet Khalil Gibran said the pain you feel is the breaking of the shell that encloses you.
Yes. Yeah. What's compelling you to break through that shell? And if there's nothing compelling you to break through the shell, then what's forcing you into that shell? That's the question.
Yeah, very good. Being an entrepreneur, one thing that comes to mind is that pain speaks. It's telling something.
Oh,
right?
Isn't that the
It's
truth?
a language in which it's wordless kind of language, right? Whether it's in body sensation, in the mind, in the being, emotion. The pain you feel is a breaking of the shell that encloses you. So this is what I want to say right here. Something I've learned being a business owner is being an entrepreneur is the best personal growth, personal development program you could ever take. There's so much opportunity to discover yourself, your potential, who you are, what you're made of. And when pain shows up, what does that tell you? Now, I've gotten to this in my life, different points in my life where there was a level of pain or a kind of pain, and then it would manifest in my body. I'd get sick. I wouldn't be able to shake a cold or a flu. It manifests in different ways, but I would see that, okay, it's time to quit this thing. Like the people I'm working with, or just the whole jam, the whole thing of it. Maybe 5 years earlier, or a year earlier, or 10 years earlier, it was my inspiration. But now I've grown from that experience. I've developed, I've gotten to where I am now, and I'm like, well, this doesn't fit anymore. So that's one way to look at it. Then here's another way. And I've also done this over time where I'm like, okay, there's something painful in my experience here. There's pain, there's suffering. What is there to learn? How am I showing up for it? And then here's the other side of it. How is it all showing up for me? The person who sent this question says he has 50 people working for him. I mean, at that point, you start becoming like a HR. You're dealing with a lot of people a lot of the time. And if you don't love that, or you don't have the right people around you, it's like, okay, how is it showing up for you? How are you showing up for it? You don't necessarily need to quit that business. Look, if it's a good business, a successful business, could it be recontextualized? What if you were to develop yourself, have an inner transformation? So how you show up to it is renewed. Don't make any decisions out of a reaction. Get very clear, get very still. Meditation, silent prayer. Listen and see, is it me? Is it how I'm showing up for this? Or is the life force actually cut off, doesn't fit, and it's really time to quit? Or is it time to quit old ways of being and old ways of interpreting it, old ways of acting inside of it, old ways of relating to it? I would say get still. I think you need to be able to tolerate pain, not physical pain, not emotional pain. You are going to be challenged as you're growing a business or operating the business in the world that we live in. There's going to be pain points. Things are going to go awry. People are going to betray you. People aren't going to show up for you. There's always going to be something. And so can you find new ways of relating to what's happening with more ease, or just ease and flow, just getting things done, moving the needle forward, and find joy in the process? Or maybe it's time to move on. Find your northern star and be ready to bury an old era and create a new one. And that's a whole other conversation. What say you, David?
Well, if I was a betting man, I would say this pain is associated with fighting resentment toward things that are either out of his control, at his or her control. Because resentment, see, when you talk about how much pain do I have to endure, one of my favorite shows is The Chosen, for a lot of reasons. Because in a way, they've humanized the world of Jesus. And when you're watching the show, if you suspend the world that you're in right now, you could feel like you're there watching it, right? Being a part of it. And there's moments where I just feel this pain in my chest. And it's like, I want to cry, I want to scream. But even that kind of pain, the pain of compassion or the pain of empathy, it could be a spiritual pain where you watch the innocent people suffering. That causes me great pain. Now, when you're in a business and you take that sensation of pain and you apply it to the people that you're involved with and the time that you're giving your life to it, you have to be honest with yourself. Are you happy with what you're doing? I mean, that's the question. Are you happy? Is this really what you want to do? Or is there something in the back of your mind that's screaming at you, telling you, this isn't it? You're wasting your life, whatever it is. And I don't know who you are. I wish I could ask you some questions. But I want to tell you something interesting. Because I said earlier, I think you're setting yourself up for disease. Yeah. And I'll use cancer as a jump-off point here. These are cancer statistics from cancer.gov. It says approximately 39.5% of men and women will be diagnosed with cancer at some point during their lifetime. In 2020, an estimated 16,850 children and adolescents aged 0 to 19 will be diagnosed with cancer. So the instance of children getting cancer is much lower because they don't know how to process information the same way we do. They aren't programmed like we are. They are not in conflict with themselves until they are. We, on the other side of the equation, we do all kinds of crazy things. We smoke and vape. We overeat. We take drugs, drink heavily. We do all kinds of things that add to, because if you're not actually dealing with the problem and you're covering it up, the problem is metastasizing inside of you. So here's the interesting thing that I found, Darren. This is from Psychology Today by Andrew Gozalek, PhD, professor at North Carolina AT University. He studies how the mind can heal the body. He says studies have shown that there may be indeed a link between behavior and personality and the onset and recovery from cancer. We know that emotions such as depression, anger, and hostility make us more prone to illness and disease. And it's been shown that positive attitudes such as hope, optimism, and happiness strengthens our immune system and protects us from disease. Recent studies point to two personality types that seem to make us either cancer-prone or cancer-resistant.
There are different types of cancers. I think the type of cancer they're speaking to here is a psychosomatic.
Absolutely.
Is that right? Yeah.
I mean, almost 40% of people will be diagnosed with cancer. So here are the list of cancer-prone personality types, okay? And the question is, if you can ask yourself, do I do any of these things? Maybe you got a clue here. Repress both positive and negative emotions. Do you dare yourself to feel happy? Because when you feel happy, you know that you don't want to feel too happy because then you're going to just go back down to feeling unhappy. Here's the next one. Shows anger, resentment, or hostility towards others. Do you suppress that too? Because when you suppress anger, you know what it does? It builds up inside of you, becomes a pressure. Now we're talking to this person who wrote you the question, takes on extra duties and responsibilities even when they cause stress, reacts adversely and does not cope well with life changes, is negative or pessimistic, becomes easily depressed or has feelings of hopelessness, worries often and excessively about others, feels the need for approval and to please others. Those are cancer-prone personality types.
I would imagine so, because I think I can relate to all those things.
Yes.
I think anyone who's an entrepreneur, actually with anyone who's slightly successful, even if you own a yoga studio or a small shop, at whatever level of you have some success in it, you're in it long enough, you're likely going to have all of those things. Doesn't necessarily mean it has to translate to cancer. It could translate to a heart attack. It could translate to a lot of things, right?
Yeah.
But then I think one thing I'll point out is if you aren't investing in yourself and health, but I'm not talking about just physical health, that's a part of it. But in your own growth and development, part of that is just sitting and meditating, getting still, investing in your mind. If that's reading scripture or taking courses or putting yourself in environments where it's alive and people are alive and people are prospering and flourishing, so that you're counterbalancing these default ways of living, default ways of being with your life. If you're just going along, there's no status quo. We're contracting or we're expanding. If you never stop to sharpen the saw and you just keep going along and you get dull and you get dull, and then all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy. There's something about knowing yourself. This question he's not asking or she's not asking about running away from it or quitting the business. She's just asking about the pain of it. But let's say you got to the point of sickness, your body starts breaking down, and then you could say, okay, I need to quit the business. But Is it a situation then where you're just going to avoid stress anywhere in your life? Remember, stress handled properly becomes a source of strength. You convert stress to strength and your own kind of growth and growing in faith. We need struggle, I say, to be able to connect to our true source of strength, our creator. If we lose touch with creator, then we default into just creature, and we're just a bundle of body sensations and thoughts and emotions, feelings, and we lose ourselves. In knowing yourself and being really honest and straight with yourself, wherever I go, there I am. Am I running from one environment to another? Am I moving from one city to another? Am I running from one country to another? Am I running from one relationship to another? Wherever I go, ego, and wherever ego I go, but I'm avoiding. Or is it really genuinely, okay, I've built up businesses, I've built up communities over the years, and it'd be to a point where I'm ready to quit this. It's time to quit this. This era is complete, and now I'm moving into the next era, which is a whole other conversation. If I unlock into the next era, that takes something, because people who've been in your life aren't going to allow you to just do that. As you unlock and open up to a new era, a new thing, people love you as you were, and maybe they really authentically loved you, and they don't want you to quit on that. They don't want you to grow and move on. And then there's something about being able to outgrow people and being okay with that. And maybe some people will come along with you for the journey. Being able to actually quit is a real thing. But in this question of pain, is this an opportunity actually for you to up level, for you to upgrade how you're showing up and how the business is showing up for you? So this pain isn't a constant and it doesn't deepen or evolve into something more.
So I'll tell you a story.
Yeah.
About 35 years ago, a man who was a very prominent lawyer discovered that he had terminal cancer. And what he decided to do was what he really always wanted to do. At that point, he said, what have I got to lose? So he quit his practice and he bought a little piece of property and he started wood carving with chainsaws and chisels. And you could see him every time you drove by. He was out there with a chainsaw carving bears and things of nature and just working. After a year, he went to his doctor expecting that he's supposed to be dead by now. Guess what happened? This is a true story. The cancer had completely disappeared.
Wow.
This is 35 years ago.
Yeah.
But when I talked to him, he told me a story. It's like, this is incredible. And so what happened was the pain that he felt was like that shell, right? He had to escape the shell. And we've talked about this statement before by Blaise Pascal. It says, all of humanity's problems stem from man's inability to sit quietly in a room alone. There's the answer right there. Now, you know, though, how hard it is to literally and actually meditate and just let go? Because, see, we are programmed to keep going. And we're like the ever-ready bunny.
Oh, yeah. And they actually have no idea where they're going. In the bigger sense, they have no idea where they are going. They're just going. It's more than a mentality. It's a toxic way of being.
It's absolutely toxic. I love the saying, everyone dies, but few have truly lived. So the question is, what does it mean to truly live? Is it being a slave to your business? Maybe. I mean, maybe that's your thing. Maybe that's all that you know and that's all you want to do. But now there's a conflict that arises. And here's the cancer-resistant personality, because cancer is a cell in rebellion against self. That's exactly what cancer is. It's a rebellion, right?
Yeah.
So the cancer-resistant personality type expresses emotions in a positive, constructive way, controls anger and resolves anger issues positively, knows when to say no. This is a typical person who wants to get things done, avoids saying no because they don't want conflict. Here's the next one. Copes well with stress and feels in control of situations, is optimistic and hopeful, does not become easily depressed. In other words, depression is anger turned within, seeks out and maintains social support networks, which is super important. If you and I are friends, I keep my friendship with you because it's part of what my sanity is based on. If I don't have good friends like you, Baron, my sanity suffers because I have to have somebody to talk to, right?
Yeah. We all need that. We need people around us who elevate us. Yeah. And
Now,
those who don't, prune them away.
Next two are very important. Does not worry excessively. Do you know that worry is a belief in a negative outcome? The more you let worry overcome you, the more you're actually propelling the outcome that you fear. And here's the last one. Likes to please, but does not seek approval as an emotional crutch. There you go. I mean, we've gone through this panoply of the negative personality type, positive personality types. Now, the question is, which one are you? And then the next question is, can you or will you commit to doing what Blaise Pascal said, because also it's in the scripture, be still and know that I am God. All of humanity's problems stem from man's inability to sit quietly in a room alone. And that is the absolute 100% truth. If you could sit in a room alone for a minute without being driven by your thoughts, you're on your way to freedom.
Yeah. Yeah, very good. Very good. Let's leave it on that. I'll leave it on this. A word that comes to mind is conversion. So whatever situation you're in, my friend who sent this question, we did this show for you today, by the way. And anyone else that gets value and can relate to their life circumstance as well. So can you use whatever pain you're feeling? Can you convert that into self-discovery? Can you convert that into discovery of a power greater than yourself that allows for a greater view and outlook of life, a greater outlook of yourself? And so, yes, to be still, to know, to submit to something greater than yourself, is to get to know yourself and to then be able to discover if there's pain, to convert that into fuel for growth and to really check, to convert it into a new way of showing up in life. And if that means changing your circumstances, do it. It's really a transformation of yourself at the level of substance, because it's easy to work on our circumstances and change those things around and jump to another career track. You may need to do that. I'm not saying no to that. Don't do that. But I'd get very clear on inner transformation. Again, quote we like referring to in this show is, do not conform to the patterns of this world, but be therefore transformed by a renewing of your mind from within. Meditation, getting still, go sit in a room and pray silently. Nonverbal prayer. Let it go. Submit, surrender, hand it over, and get present to what's actually going on with you. Get present to what's actually going on in your business, your life. Get present to how your circumstances are showing up for you, how people are showing up for you, like watching a movie on a screen. How is it life showing up for you? Because maybe that's what's needed, is a transformation of how life occurs to you, how life seems to you, how people seem to you, because that's what's stressing you out. At the end of the day,
Baron and I, we don't know you, but we love you. Yeah. In other words, we can imagine, we can envision you as a happy person. And that is the kind of agape love, the godly love that we have for you as brothers. Yeah. It's a male or a female. It doesn't make any difference. We care about you. Yeah. And you should know that.
Yeah, spot on. And I've been there a lot. I have a very high pain threshold. It's allowed me to stay in a lot of businesses or endeavors, both to a point to develop a lot of experience and skill, and then to the detriment of staying on or in something for too long. To know yourself is then to know what to do, but it's going to take coming to the truth. Thank you, David. You all, thank you. If you got any kind of insight or bigger thinking, or we confronted your usual status quo ways of thinking and you're a little stirred up, that's good. That's what a disruption feels and looks like. But we ask you, if you got something from this, share the show. And again, we'll be posting some of these on YouTube, Baron Baptiste YouTube. So thank you, David. Peace out.